15 years in landscaping has taught me one thing. Gardens rarely punish you on installation day. They punish you 2, 3, 5 years later, quietly, when the bill finally comes due for a decision nobody thought twice about at the time. I've watched a $50 plant turn into a $4,000 plumbing repair. I've watched a temporary garden feature outlive 3 owners and cause problems for all of them, none of whom ever knew where the problem actually started. And one mistake on this list, sitting at number 3, isn't really about money at all. It's the one that quietly puts someone's safety at risk, and it's hiding in more backyards than you'd think. You'll understand exactly what I mean when we get there. We've got 10 mistakes to get through today, ranked from expensive to genuinely dangerous. Before we start, hit subscribe, tap that like button, and share this with anyone about to start a garden project this season. It might save them a bill they never saw coming. Let's start at number 10. 10. Planting a tree without researching its mature size. Would you buy a couch without measuring your living room first? That's essentially what happens every time someone plants a tree based purely on how it looks in a 5-gallon nursery pot. Nurseries sell trees at a fraction of their eventual size, because that's the size that fits on a garden center shelf and looks manageable to a first-time buyer. Homeowners plant it 3 feet from the house, 6 feet from the property line, right under a power line, because at 18 inches tall, none of that spacing seems to matter yet. Here's what actually happens over the following decade. That tree doesn't stay small out of politeness. A species that looks modest today can reach 40 or 50 feet in height and an equally wide canopy at maturity. And by the time that becomes obvious, you're not dealing with a young sapling you can just move. You're dealing with a mature root system pushing against your foundation, branches tangled in power lines that the utility company will eventually cut back for you, whether you like the resulting shape or not, and a tree that costs more to professionally remove than it ever cost to plant. The fix is simple and free. Look up the mature height and canopy spread before you buy anything, not after. Give large species at least 20 to 30 feet of clearance from structures and utility lines. And if you genuinely love a fast-growing, large canopy variety, plant it where its full-grown size actually belongs, not where its current nursery pot size happens to fit. I worked on a property a few years back where a homeowner had planted a fast-growing shade tree directly beside their patio for quick summer relief. It delivered exactly what they wanted within a few years. It also delivered a root system that started lifting the patio pavers, one by one, from underneath. By the time they called me, the tree was too large and too established to relocate, and the patio needed a full rebuild around a root system that was only going to keep growing. A single afternoon of research at the nursery would have saved them both. 9. Installing landscape fabric under every garden bed. Landscape fabric gets sold as the permanent solution to weeds. Ironically, it's often the thing that makes your weed problem worse within a few years, not better. The promise is straightforward. Lay the fabric down, cover it with mulch, and weeds supposedly can't push through. What actually happens is that organic mulch breaks down on top of the fabric over time, creating a thin layer of actual soil sitting directly above it. Weed seeds land in that new soil layer, germinate right there, and send roots down into the fabric itself, which they grip onto instead of being blocked by. Now you've got weeds anchored into a barrier that's nearly impossible to pull out cleanly. Worse, that fabric also blocks beneficial organic matter, earthworms and water infiltration from actually reaching the native soil underneath, which slowly degrades your bed's actual soil health over years, even while everything looks fine on the surface. The fix is skipping the fabric entirely for planted beds and relying on a proper 2 to 3 inch layer of organic mulch instead, refreshed annually. It suppresses weeds just as effectively without smothering your soil, and it never becomes a tangled mess you have to fight to remove later. If you're renovating a bed that already has fabric buried under years of mulch, budget real time for removal, because pulling established roots out of woven fabric is genuinely one of the more frustrating jobs in this entire trade. 8. Building raised beds with treated lumber. And no-liner raised garden beds are one of the smartest upgrades a home vegetable garden can get. Built with the wrong lumber, they can quietly work against the very thing you're trying to grow. Homeowners often reach for pressure-treated lumber because it's cheap, widely available, and resists rot far longer than untreated wood. What frequently goes unmentioned at the checkout counter is that older treated lumber formulations relied on chemical preservatives that can leach into surrounding soil over time. And even current formulations aren't something most gardeners want in direct, prolonged contact with the soil they're growing food in. The consequence isn't always dramatic or immediate. It's a slow accumulation in the soil over multiple growing seasons, one most people never test for, sitting directly beneath vegetables they're feeding their families. The fix is straightforward. Line the interior walls of any treated lumber raised bed with heavy-duty polyethylene sheeting before adding soil, creating a physical barrier between the wood and your growing medium. Or, spend slightly more upfront on naturally rot-resistant wood, like cedar or redwood, which needs no chemical treatment and no liner at all. Either option costs less than a single season of produce from a bed you'd otherwise be second-guessing every time you harvested from it. Quick reminder before we keep going. Hit subscribe, tap like, and share this with anyone building raised beds this spring. The next one is a mistake I see in nearly every yard with a slope. 7. Grading a new garden bed, toward the house instead of away from it. A garden bed built right up against your foundation looks intentional and finished. Built with the wrong slope, it can quietly be sending water exactly where you don't want it. When a new bed gets built up against the house, it's common for the finished grade to end up level with, or even slightly higher than, the original ground line, especially once fresh soil and mulch get piled in for a lush, full look. Nobody's thinking about drainage in that moment. They're thinking about how full and healthy the bed looks. The hidden consequence shows up the first time it rains hard. Without a slight slope directing water away from the foundation, water either pools against the house or gets funneled directly toward it, where it can work into basement walls, crawl spaces, or foundation cracks over repeated soaking cycles. I've seen finished basements develop damp problems years after a garden bed was installed, with nobody connecting the two until someone finally checked the actual grade. The fix has to happen before the bed is filled, not after. Maintain a slope of roughly 1 inch of drop for every foot of distance from the house, moving water away rather than toward the foundation, and keep the finished soil level several inches below any siding or brick veneer. If a bed already exists without proper grading, a shallow French drain along the problem edge can redirect water without requiring you to tear the whole bed out and start over. 6. Choosing running bamboo for privacy without a rhizome barrier. Nothing on this list spreads faster or with less mercy than bamboo planted without a barrier in the ground first. Homeowners plant it because it delivers dense, mature-looking privacy screening faster than almost anything else available, sometimes within a single growing season. That speed is exactly the problem. Running bamboo varieties send out underground rhizomes that can travel well beyond the original planting site in a single season, popping up through lawns, through cracks in driveways, and occasionally into a neighbor's yard entirely. By the time new shoots start appearing 30 feet from where it was originally planted, the underground rhizome network is already well established, and removing it typically requires either years of persistent digging or professional excavation, sometimes running into thousands of dollars, plus the very real possibility of a strained relationship with whoever's property it spread into. The fix, if you love the look, is installing a heavy-gauge rhizome barrier at least 30 inches deep around the entire planting before a single cane goes into the ground. Or choose a clumping bamboo variety instead of a running one, which delivers the same visual density without the underground ambush. If it's already established and spreading, professional removal is genuinely worth the cost compared to years of chasing new shoots across the yard yourself. 5. Skipping a soil test before amending or fertilizing anything. Here's the mistake that quietly undermines everything else you do in the garden, and almost nobody actually does it. Homeowners buy fertilizer and soil amendments based on what the bag promises or what worked for a neighbor, without ever finding out what their own soil actually needs. It feels unnecessary when the ground already looks fine, brown and solid and ready to plant. The hidden consequence is that you end up guessing, sometimes for years. Adding fertilizer to soil that's already overloaded with a particular nutrient doesn't help your plants, it can actively harm them, and it can also run off into local waterways where excess nutrients contribute to real environmental problems downstream. Meanwhile, a genuine soil deficiency, whether it's pH, a missing micronutrient, or poor drainage, keeps getting treated with the wrong fix year after year because nobody ever identified what the actual problem was in the first place. The fix costs almost nothing. A simple soil test kit or a local extension office analysis for well under $50 tells you pH, drainage characteristics, and nutrient levels before you spend another dollar guessing. It's the cheapest, highest leverage thing on this entire list, and it's the one step I recommend to literally every homeowner I work with, regardless of what they're actually trying to build or plant. Quick reminder, if this video is helping you avoid a costly mistake, hit subscribe, like it, and share it with someone about to fertilize their whole yard this season. The next 3 get more serious, not less. 4. Letting a retaining wall go undrained behind a slope. Would you trust a wall to hold back tons of wet soil, with no way for that water to actually escape? That's exactly what happens when a retaining wall gets built without proper drainage behind it. Sloped yards practically call for a retaining wall, and stacking interlocking blocks looks deceptively simple. What gets skipped, more often than you'd expect, is a layer of gravel backfill and a perforated drain pipe running behind the wall to relieve water pressure. Without it, every heavy rain adds hydrostatic pressure directly against the back of the wall, since the water has nowhere else to go. The consequence doesn't show up on day 1, it shows up a year or 2 later, after a wet season, when the wall starts leaning outward by a few degrees, then a few degrees more. Eventually the pressure wins, and the wall gives way, sometimes onto a patio, a fence line, or a neighbor's property below it. The fix is proper drainage built in from the very start, compacted gravel backfill, and a perforated pipe directing water away from the base of the wall, not trapped behind it. It costs more upfront than skipping the step. It's the difference between a wall that lasts decades and one you're rebuilding, along with whatever it damaged on the way down. Any wall over roughly 3 feet tall also typically needs an engineered design and a permit in most municipalities, which is worth checking before you start, not after an inspector notices. 3. Installing a fire pit, too close to a wood fence or deck. This is the mistake that isn't really about money. This is the one that puts real safety on the line, and in 15 years, it's the one I bring up first whenever anyone mentions adding a fire feature. Fire pits have become the centerpiece of nearly every backyard renovation, and understandably so, they get used year-round in a way almost nothing else does. But in the excitement of building one, clearance requirements often get treated as flexible suggestions instead of hard rules. A pit gets tucked close to a wood fence for a cozier feel, or positioned right at the edge of a deck for easy access. Here's what almost nobody accounts for. Radiant heat doesn't need direct flame contact to cause damage. Sustained heat from a fire burning for a couple of hours slowly dries out and scorches nearby wood, even several feet away, long before any visible mark appears. That dried-out wood then ignites far more easily than it did originally, and that change happens invisibly, session after session, until eventually the conditions line up for something serious. Most fire and building codes require a minimum of 10 feet of clearance from any structure for exactly this reason. The fix costs nothing but planning. Cite any fire feature with genuine open clearance on all sides, use a spark screen every time, and never build one directly against a wood fence or on top of a wood or composite deck without a proper heat-resistant barrier rated specifically for radiant heat. I've walked properties where a portable fire pit had been placed on the same corner of a deck for 2 full seasons, and the boards underneath had already dried out enough that a single stray ember could have caught. Nothing had happened yet. That's exactly what makes this one so easy to overlook, and exactly why it deserves more caution than almost anything else in this list. If you take one thing from this video, take this. Radiant heat doesn't need to touch something to destroy it, and that single fact should change how you think about every fire feature in your yard. Quick reminder, hit subscribe, like this video, and share it with anyone who has a fire pit near a wood fence or deck right now. This one matters more than almost anything else on this list. 2. Planting invasive ground cover without checking your region's restrictions. That fast-spreading ground cover promising to fill in bare patches in a single season is often exactly the plant your region's extension office would tell you never to buy. Homeowners choose aggressive ground covers precisely because they spread fast and require almost no maintenance once established. Species like English ivy or certain non-native vinca varieties deliver on that promise almost too well. Left unchecked, they don't stop at the edge of the bed. They climb trees, work into siding, and spread into wooded areas or greenbelts near the property, where they can outcompete native plants that local wildlife depends on. Removal, once it's established beyond the original planting area, often means cutting it back at the base of every tree and structure it's climbed, repeatedly, over multiple seasons, and it rarely stays gone on the first attempt. The fix is choosing a well-behaved native ground cover suited to your specific region and light conditions instead, one that fills space without the aggressive climbing or spreading habit, and checking your local invasive species list before buying anything marketed purely as fast-spreading or no maintenance. Those two words on a plant tag should always prompt a second look, not an easier decision. 1. Never testing drainage before you build or plant anything permanent. Here's the uncomfortable truth. None of the other 9 mistakes are really where they start. They all trace back to this one, and in 15 years, it's the single most common root cause behind nearly every expensive callback I've ever received. Almost nobody checks how water actually moves through their yard before committing to a patio, a raised bed, a retaining wall, or even where to plant a tree. It feels unnecessary when the ground looks dry and stable on a normal day. But drainage determines almost everything downstream. Whether a patio slopes the right direction, whether a retaining wall needs a drain, whether a bed floods every spring, even whether a tree's root system will end up seeking out moisture near your foundation. The hidden consequence is that homeowners spend years treating individual symptoms instead of the actual cause, replacing plants that drowned in standing water nobody noticed, or fighting a soggy corner of the yard with more mulch and more patience, instead of solving the underlying grade problem. I've watched people spend thousands of dollars across several years on fixes that a simple drainage observation, done once, before anything was built, would have prevented entirely. The fix costs nothing but a little patience. After the next heavy rain, walk your yard and actually watch where water pools, where it moves quickly, and where it sits for hours afterward. That 15 minutes of observation, done before you commit to anything permanent, tells you more than any amount of guessing ever will. It's the cheapest thing on this entire list, and the one step that would have prevented every single mistake we just covered. I think about this every time I walk a new property for the first time. Before I ever talk materials, before I ever sketch a layout, I ask the homeowner one question: where does the water go when it rains hard? Half the time, they genuinely don't know, because nobody's ever asked them to pay attention. That single answer shapes almost every decision that follows it, and it's the one piece of information that costs nothing to gather and saves the most to ignore. If there's one principle to take from all 10 of these, it's this: almost every expensive garden regret isn't really a materials problem or a bad luck problem. It's a nobody checked first problem. One small piece of missing information that would have completely changed the decision if anyone had known to look for it. The gardens that never cost their owners a surprise bill aren't the ones with the biggest budgets. They're the ones where someone asked one more question before the shovel ever hit the ground. If you recognized one or two of these already sitting in your own yard, you're not alone, and none of them are unfixable. Most of what we covered today has a straightforward fix once you actually know it's a problem, and that's really the whole point of this video, catching it before the bill arrives instead of after. But before you spend another dollar out there, you need to see the backyard mistakes quietly costing homeowners even more. And that video is right here. Hit subscribe, like this one on your way out, and I'll see you in the next video.